Join hosts Mary Carter and Stephen Ross as they sit down with Tommy Q from JB Warranties for an eye-opening conversation about extended labor warranties, hidden business liabilities, and protecting what matters most. Whether you're a contractor navigating the complexities of warranty programs or a homeowner trying to understand what's really covered when your system fails, this episode delivers the insights you need to make smart decisions and avoid costly mistakes. Let's get started.
Welcome back to HVAC Full Blast. I'm Mary Carter.
I'm Stephen Ross.
And we have an amazing guest today. I'm so excited to catch up with Tommy Q. Tommy, how are you?
Mary, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having us. Stephen, thanks for the invite as well, sir. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
You bet, Tommy. So Tommy, for those of you who don't know, is the VP of Strategic Partnerships at JB Warranties, which is a company that we've done a lot of work with side by side. And you play, Tommy, in the extended warranty space, or is it even bigger than that?
Play in a lot of different spaces, especially with Trane Technologies, but typically HVAC and plumbing, extended labor warranties. There's a little bit of confusion about limited warranty versus labor. So let's make sure we understand we're selling a labor product.
Okay, perfect. Actually, maybe we'll start there. Can you maybe give us the 30,000-foot view of the difference? Because I'll be honest, I have sold JB Warranties products before, but even I get a little tripped up on it.
Gotcha. So the 30,000 view, if you will, every manufacturer has a base warranty, and typically when registered, it could carry that base warranty out to 10 or even 12 years. So that's on the manufacturer to cover those parts for that length of time. What's changed over the last several years is states like Florida, Texas, California, they don't require equipment to be registered anymore. So it comes with the longest stated limited warranty. We're starting to see that migrate in other states. So that's the limited side. And what JBW does is we sell labor plans. So we're covering mechanical failures at a purchase labor rate of somewhere between $85 an hour and $300 an hour reimbursement to the contractor.
Okay.
So we're covering the contractor's labor.
Gotcha. Because I feel like those mechanical failures come up, right? In general, these are machines with moving parts that in most cases live outside, just like your car, right? And so mechanical failures are bound to happen. But the shocker as a homeowner, at least in my case, has been when the bill comes to pay for the nice person actually doing the work on that unit, right? I mean, they got to make some money too.
Yeah, part of our onboarding process with contractors across the country is understanding the value of insuring that piece of equipment for a length of time. What we see happen more times than not is they go out and they buy a nice air conditioning system, a very efficiency inverter-driven air conditioning system. A fan motor or blower motor fails 4 or 5 years down the road. All the homeowner remembers is it had a 10-year limited warranty.
Mm.
Now your contractor is going to give them a bill for several $100s to replace that in-warranty part. So what we try to do in coaching dealers and best practices is offer warranties at point of sale to the consumer on their bid proposal and be inclusive selling, whether it's a 2-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, or even a 10-year plan. We don't really care, just as long as you're providing the consumer a peace of mind. Because what happens is inevitably 5 years down the road, it's a bad experience if they don't have a labor plan. And the homeowner, just like I would be, I'd be upset. If you give me the opportunity to insure what has become a very expensive air conditioning system in our industry, just like cars, we're all buying extended warranties on cars, right? It's a great example that you started off with. So it becomes a very valuable asset to the consumer and for the dealer. Because what we're doing is we're putting that dealer in front of that homeowner every year for maintenance, right? And so they're building that camaraderie with that homeowner, building that relationship. Then and when they have a failure, because they will have a failure, the vast majority of them do, that contractor is the servicing agent of that extended warranty. So that's creating a lot of stickiness for the contractor that they need to own that home for years because we all know how expensive a lead is nowadays. You want to own that house as long as you can.
Yeah.
Tommy, a question. So you've got and I'm a little rusty. I sold my heating and air company a year ago, so I'm going off of memory. But you got kind of the labor only, but then you could also go with labor plus, where you've got refrigerant included. Is that right?
That is correct. So JBW's got a few different plans. Typically, it's about a 50-50 buy between the contractors. So labor only is going to pay the labor rate they want to purchase at, which needs to cover overhead and cost, hopefully. We try to encourage them to buy up because it is a pass-through to the consumer, right? And so they're going to make a margin on it as well. So we encourage them to either buy labor only with a trip charge, and we've got a flat rate price that we pay out on claims, or we have what we call labor plus, the same hourly repair schedule, the same trip charge, but we also do a refrigerant allowance, a reclaim fee, and a parts allowance based on the value of the in-warranty part. So labor plus cost, let's just say it's 20 to 25% more money, but it pays you 25% more money on the claim side. So
Okay.
each dealer gets to pick and choose their menu and smorgasbord. We don't necessarily guide them. We just provide them what they want.
Okay. Can I tell you guys a story? So this, I wanted Tommy to come on because I just want to pick his brain. Like the extended warranty thing, just it's an interesting animal. And Mary, I'm old, so let me just preface this. So let's go back in time to 2008, if we could. Mary was in fifth grade. I mean, sorry, no,
Yeah. Oh,
sorry, I'm just kidding. All right, I'm kidding. So, all right, so 2008. So in our industry, if in the early 2000s, almost all the manufacturers offered a warranty and then a labor warranty, and they were doing it in-house. So they were collecting the premium, they were escrowing the money, they were paying out the claims. At some point in the early 2000s, they were like, hey, this is too much risk. There's too much variance in labor rates and everything else. And so they stopped doing it. You had an insurance company, a very large insurance company that said, okay, we'll create an extended warranty company. And a lot of the manufacturers resold extended warranties through there. And then in 2008, stock market crashes and that company goes under. The insurance company sells it off, or that company bankrupts. And so I would say like 2009, 2010, we kind of had a hole in our industry. The manufacturers were only offering parts warranties. They weren't offering labor warranties. The biggest player in the labor warranty market went bankrupt. And so then what do you do? And so I had so I was selling sales training. Like I'm traveling around the country, I'm doing sales training. I had a contractor that I worked with in the Midwest. It was pretty large, doing about $15 million a year of residential installs. And they're like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to just do our own warranty in-house. And so they just made up a number. They were tacking on about $1,000 a system. And this is again 2010. Their average ticket was somewhere around $10,000, $11,000. So it was somewhere around roughly 10% of the install was the 10-year labor warranty. And so year one, I mean, they collected roughly $1 million some dollars in premium, and they paid out like $50,000 in claims. And they're like, oh my God, we're going to get rich, right? And this goes on year two, year three. So in year one, the owners take all the money that should have been escrowed and they go buy a condo in the Caribbean. And so there's no money in that escrow account. And so when I got involved in year three, they're like, our service department is bleeding money. We need to sell more. Like, so they bring me in to grow sales. And once I kind of peel back some layers of the onion, I'm like, this is a Ponzi scheme. Because what they're doing now is, or what they were doing then, was they were trying to sell these extended warranties because they needed that money to then pay for the claims for the extended warranties from several years ago. Highly illegal. And so it took a long time to unwind that mess. So we had to grow sales, but we also had to have enough margin in there to backfill the escrow account. And we needed to then buy a third-party labor warranty to cover the unit that was going in today. So we stopped this cycle of, I don't know if there's another word for it, Ponzi scheme. So it's the owners of the company made a ton of money in year one, but by year four, their service department was losing a lot of money. And by year 5 or 6, that company would have gone under if we hadn't kind of figured out a way to stop the bleeding. So I guess, Tommy, let's talk. Here's what I want to talk about is there's a couple different things I see. Go ahead, Mary. What do you think?
I mean, here at HVAC Full Blast, we are here to ask the tough questions. So,
Yeah.
Tommy, how many houses in the Caribbean do you have?
I don't have any. I've stayed away from that. We've tried to run a pretty good little company here out of Texas, and we take care of business. We're really good at what we do. We're an ESOP. So what I love about that is my employees, they really understand that, and we've actually got the whole team coming in next week to Texas, and we'll share those ESOP statements. And it's been a really good, solid growth company. We don't invest in condominiums too often. We try to stay here in the States, and we're good to go.
What's an e-stop for maybe people who don't know?
So, employee stock ownership. So we've taken a percentage of the company back in 2019 and have sold it to the employees. So every employee vests over a length of time. And it's truly a gift from JBW that you earn your own ESOP and it stays with you for lifetime. It's a beautiful thing. It's probably helped us grow substantially because our people are staying with us. We've got best places to work 6 out of 10 years. We've got Inc. 5000, 5 out of 10 years. So it's really signified our place in the space, if you will. Now, back to what Stephen said, when times got tough in 08 and 09 and 10, there was 2 or 3 other companies in this niche space because we truly are in a niche space. There's not many competitors out there. There's a few. But what we studied and what we learned from the tragedies of 08 through 10, we brought the first employee we hired was an actuary guy. And he came from the appliance industry, and he's brilliant. And he had a little bit of background in HVAC and a lot of background in automobile and appliances. So that's what I call our actuary guy. So he sets my cost and he sets my margins and he looks out for me. So not only do I have my own actuary company working for us, my insurance underwriter has an actuary company. And then I actually vet it through a third-party actuary company as well. So I actually look at my book twice a year and the actuaries help me adjust accordingly. The cool thing about doing it that way is we're pretty consistent in pricing. I haven't had much of a price increase in 3 years. I will only have an increase next year on a few select plans that cover parts cost years 11 and 12. Because I know what that parts cost is going to be 11 years from now. So I have to buffer that. But other than that, it's a pretty simple product. It's very easy to use. Stephen, there's been bad experiences across the country. Our industry really changed in 2019. Something called COVID came around and private equity saw how lucrative the home services space was. And I'm not talking just air conditioning. I'm talking pest control. I'm talking roofing, landscaping, all of it. And what I didn't know at the time, I didn't know how big of a bonus that was going to be for an extended warranty company. Because these guys are a lot smarter than me. Most of them are coming from Wall Street. And they understand reserves and, as Stephen would say, self-insuring. And we have created a nice little book of business selling extended warranties for systems that are up to 5 years old to many of these large PE firms and even private companies that are just expanding their business portfolio because they want an insured agreement and they want the risk off of their books. And so we've created a unique space with a lot of the private equity companies and larger growing dealers to take that reserve and put it where it needs to be on our books.
Yeah,
So maybe back to Stephen's story, there's risks with self-insuring. Number one, you got to keep track of the money, right? But what else have you seen, and why might those risks be mitigated with a JB warranty program instead?
It all comes down to this. I think Stephen hit the nail on the head. If you're putting reserves aside, and each state has their own rules and regulations. In Florida, it's the Department of Finance. In Texas, it's the Department of Licensing. I've got a whole team that keeps me legal in every state. But what it comes down to is I pay an insurance premium at point of sale. When I sell a warranty, I'm paying if it's a 3-year plan, I'm paying 3 years worth of insurance. 5-year plan, I'm paying 5, 10 years, I'm paying 10. And I have to keep that money in reserve to cover claims. And every time they file a claim, there's a transaction between our administration company and our insurance company and JBW. That's how we get to set our rates where they're at, and that's how we control the flow and the cost and the expenses. Because you don't want a dealer keeping a reserve in his bank account, because everybody knows when it comes tough in shoulder season toward the end of the year, and that money's sitting over in that account, and he's like, we can make that up next year. They'll take it away. It doesn't work like that. You just got to have the right business mentality. This is my cost. This is my margin, and this is what I have to set aside for this length of time. Not many contractors do it correctly in the country.
Mhm.
Mary, here's the other thing that happens is, and now I've kind of gone through the process of selling my heating and air company, and then kind of walked through that process with some other people. And one of the things that it'll happen, let's just make up numbers. Let's say you've got a heating and air company that goes out on the market to do evaluation, and they're going to come in and say, hey, we think your heating and air company is worth $10 million. And so they get an offer from a private equity group. Well, that private equity group is going to come in and do kind of a quality of earnings report. They're going to dig in deep on the finances. And so if over here, they've got a bunch of, like, they've just included 10-year warranties on a system, a 10-year labor warranty that they sold, but they never tracked it anywhere. Well, that's now kind of an off the books liability that once the private equity group finds that, they're going to come back and say, hey, we were going to pay you $10 million for your heating air company, but we're only going to give you 8 now because we have to take $2 million and go buy insurance to cover these 10-year labor warranties that you've taken out. So it's like this hidden liability that a lot of times the contractor doesn't even know the magnitude of what that liability is. And I think that's the scariest thing of the whole unknown risk piece for a business owner, is that you have no idea what that number could be if you're not tracking it. And most of us in the heating air business, like, we're experts at heating and air. We are not experts at long-term risk and insurance products. And so to have something like that take down a decent sized company is just scary, I think.
Yeah, because that number of the liability isn't necessarily the number that's sitting in reserves. Because what if they all came to collect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
because I think that would be the maybe the back of the napkin math that people would say, well, my liability is this, and that's what I have in reserves, and I'm good, I'm good. But that's not necessarily how, like, time value of money and reimbursement works. So pulling a little finance out there, yeah.
Yeah, one thing to note on these contractors that self-insure, right, wrong, or indifferent, what I always like to say, that's my favorite quote, is every manufacturer will have an issue. I don't care who you are, we're going to have them. We're a mechanical product that uses electricity, right? So we went through a coils failure, high percentage of coil failures. Those are the third most expensive repair we pay out. We had those coil problems, that was a big hit. Then a few years later, we had what we called a TXV problem. And that wasn't brand specific, right? That hit every brand in the marketplace because of the change in the oil viscosity. And it just plugged up TXVs. And I saw claims just skyrocket for a 13-month period of time on TXVs. And I got so good at data that I could tell you the serial number it started with by manufacturer and where it ended, because I had to get out in front of that. So that's the cool thing when you're talking about an extended warranty company that's familiar with the HVAC industry. I picked up the phone and I called the folks at Trane Technology and I said, big spike, let's look at this. There's got to be some data that can help us figure what this is. And we got out in front of it really quick. And with the help of the manufacturers, we could identify agreements that were sold that would potentially have a claim, and we'd let our dealers know about that, because together with the manufacturers, we helped mitigate that expense because they had a service bulletin that paid part of it, and then I paid the rest of it. So having that kind of knowledge with the folks at like Trane Technologies, it was incredible to see how we could get out in front of that. So that's an exception to an expense that a dealer would never forecast. And I'm going to tell you that percentage of failure rate, I don't want to tell you what it was, but amongst all brands, it was a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's a component driven product, right? It's not just one thing inside of it. And so things are bound to go wrong, and there's all different circumstances. And so, that's why manufacturers do have a semblance of a warranty. That makes sense. To some degree, we're all admitting something might go wrong. So this now covers you on the extra piece of that labor portion, which, again, back to the top of the podcast, I think is the perception that it's being covered is there, but what's really covered and what's not are usually two different stories.
Yes, I think that's always the case. I think Stephen told me we were up at the customer care conference in Chicago, and I think you'll get more negative Google reviews from a failure within the limited warranty time than you could ever imagine.
Mm.
And a negative review goes so, I hate to say it, it goes so much further than a positive review. It truthfully does. So that's kind of what we teach our team and our contractors, guys. The cheesiest form that I've ever made has probably been my most valuable decline coverage form. We teach our dealers, if you offer a consumer a good, better, best scenario, and it's a 3, 5, and a 10-year warranty, and they decline your warranty, make them sign it. Because 4 years from now, when they come back and they're mad at Stephen Ross Air Conditioning because he thought he had a 10-year limited warranty. Yes, sir, you got a limited warranty, but not the labor. So as cheesy as that form is, and we customize it for dealers, but as cheesy as it is, it has an effect that consumers giving that peace of mind away. And I encourage you, all dealers, to include that in their proposal tools.
Yeah, nice. I know we're kind of cross-pollinating a little bit, but you can put that form right into Pricebook Plus so that it's getting signed off. You can take that language and put it right in there so that when the customer signs for it, it's in there. So I know lots of our dealers use multiple platforms in terms of field service management type software and proposal tools and whatnot. But it was easy for me because I was, again, through that dealer program. I mean, I'm using everything in that program from Wells Fargo to JB Warranties to Pricebook Plus to Search Kings. I mean, I just took it all, but it's nice that it kind of fit together that way. Absolutely. All right, I got a question. So what about, because we're always looking for loopholes. When I say we, I mean like business owners, like, hey, like this is expensive. Can I trim an expense? Can I make a little extra money somewhere else? So I ran into a heating air contractor that had a 1-year renewable labor warranty. So that way you didn't have to escrow money. So he would charge, hey, it's $300 a year for the maintenance agreement. And for another $150 a year, we'll cover labor. And the homeowner could do that as long as they never broke the chain, right? So like in year 1, it's $150. Year 2, it's $150. If you don't pay it in year 3, you can't come back in year 4 or 5 and add it on. So he was like, hey, it's legal. I don't have to escrow the money. I'm collecting the money up front. If I got claims in the same year that I collect the premium, it washes out. Like, thoughts on that, Tommy?
That's the loophole, right? So if as long as you stay underneath that 1-year offering, you can circumvent a lot of laws, a lot of regulations. Once you go to multiple years, then you need to buy an insurance product. Absolutely correct. And the dealers that can do that and do it right, hey, that's a great opportunity for you. If you do it and you do it right and it's making you money, that's a beautiful thing.
It's tough. I mean, it's hard to be good at so many different things as a business, right? Like you're trying to be good at install, you're trying to be good at sales, you're trying to be able to be good at service, and then all of a sudden you've got this insurance product you got to manage as well. And if you don't manage it well, that risk, that liability can negate everything that you did well that you were actually an expert in. So it is so interesting to see the pros and cons. If you think through like the dealers that do it well, I mean, I'm sure it's always interesting to be on kind of your side where you can see across the country, you've got some dealers that maybe sell 5 extended labor warranties in a year. And then you've got some that sell 5 in a day, every single day of the year. The people that do it well, what are they doing well?
Boy, that's the secret sauce, right? The dealers that are successful are, and I hate to say this, they're offering 4 to 5 different options every time they're selling a system to a consumer. And what I try to do, especially if they're an elite Trane or American Standard dealer, those dealers typically have to carry sometimes a 2-year labor warranty. So we bake that into their 2-year plans. We put a 2-year on everything. And then when they go up to the 17 SEER single speed, we try to look at a 3 or a 5-year option. If they go up to an 18 or a 20 SEER, a 10-year option. So the good, better, best sales guys that are selling systems with monthly payments are having success. You had a very good class up in Chicago, and you said how many of you are not using financing. And typically, I think you tell me it's 30 or 40% of dealers say they don't do financing, and that's ooching up because of the price of systems. But if the right dealer is selling monthly payments There is always a cash price. You can make a cash price. There's a credit card price, but you've got to give the consumer those options because not everybody's paying cash. And if you don't offer them a financing plan, you're not going to get a sale. They're just going to decline your plan. They're going to call the next guy and he's going to come in and say it's $256 a month. And that guy's going to get a sale that you thought that you just didn't sell them. They just didn't buy a new system. Odds are they bought a new system from somebody else that had the right offer.
Yeah. Which kind of leads into the next conversation, which is, if somebody's going to buy a system today, they probably need some sort of monthly payment, especially if you're, I'm going to make this up. Let's say your 10-year labor plus is $1,200. I mean, that's a lot to tack onto a system. So that then needs to be included in that monthly payment. So what we've seen in our industry, starting in Canada and working its way down, is companies offering a leasing program. Well, they'll say, hey, we'll take the risk now. You're leasing it from us. We'll handle maintenance, repairs, all that kind of stuff. It's on us now. Talk about that a little bit. I mean, that's something that you guys kind of play both sides of the fence a little bit. Like you can sell the warranty coverage in that lease program, but you could also, we've talked about this a little bit on this podcast, you bundle it with a Wells Fargo plan to come up with something pretty similar. Tommy, give us the quick overview of leasing versus a long-term finance that bundles in maintenance and warranty.
Couple of things. I have worked with Trane Technologies' new leasing partner, Palmetto, and they are rolling out a leasing program that has a warranty included, and it would be a labor plus warranty. What's cool about these plans is you can service them once a year or twice a year. So these are the Wells Fargo approved bundles. They're on the customer care sites, but they're 5 and they're 10-year plan options at very more higher labor rates than normal. Because like you just said, Stephen, if it's a $1,200 warranty, and let's say the guy doubled it, it's $2,400, right, to the consumer. That's about an $18 difference in a monthly payment. That's actually pretty affordable. So we've built out bundles for both the leasing side with Palmetto and then the Wells Fargo side that are 5 and 10-year plans that cover refrigerant, reclaim fee, parts allowance, trip. A filter allowance is built into the pricing. So it really is a turnkey. Whether the consumer wants to go down the leasing channel, they can buy them and pay cash for them. I've got dealers, very large dealers selling, homeowners paying cash for them, or they can bundle them through Wells Fargo, and they're Wells Fargo approved SKUs. And it started off kind of slow, truth be known, but with the way our economy is right now, it's gaining more traction because more and more people are financing. So we've got both lanes covered with a very good product that'll take that consumer's peace of mind away.
Isn't the idea of even putting an extended warranty plan on a monthly payment plan kind of new? I mean, I feel like for so long, the consumer finance training was, you can only finance what's being sold in the home today. Like, how am I financing something that is, an insurance policy?
Yeah, so what we did when we worked with the folks at Wells Fargo, I think it was Casey and his team, and they approved a product that could be financed for 5 or 10 years, knowing that in my rules and terms and conditions, I have to pay the premium for that length of time up front. So that's what gave Wells Fargo the comfort to know that these plans would be approved. And it's worked really well. It's gaining some traction. Just between the rules and regulations of holding those reserves, it becomes very cumbersome for somebody to try to do that on their own. Think about all the complications that we've already discussed. So this is just a new avenue that we've created it's really starting to gain traction. It really is.
I think it's an important distinction to draw because banks are very particular, right? They're and they should be. I'm not even knocking banks right now. They're taking on the risk of, writing the plan or the promotion that the customer is now paying against. But it is new and favorable to now add in one of these vetted extended warranty companies like JB Warranties, because you've actually gone through the process of getting that sealed approval from the bank to be able to transact that way. it would still be problematic to finance a self-funded extended warranty program. That actually could come back to hurt you in a finance transaction. So why take that risk? I think that's a huge positive for working with the JB warranties. And I'm totally biased because Tommy, I enjoy hanging out with you. But I mean, I think that's a huge distinction. You've already done the legwork to say to the bank, we are a legitimate company. Here's the numbers to back it up.
Yeah, it took a long time to get it put together with Wells Fargo and Trane Technologies and all the leadership teams. They saw the value and they just said, have patience, Tommy. We're going to drag our feet. We're going to make you sign this, this, and this, and this. And then we're going to make you do this. And we finally did it all. And we rolled it out probably 16, 17 months ago. And then fortunately was talked about quite a bit up in Chicago at the American Standard Customer Care event with your elite dealers. And then the previous year, we rolled it out with the Trane Elite Conference over in California.
Amazing.
So the one other thing though, if we truly were designing a product to compete against leasing, and on one hand, I'm a sales consultant. So when a dealer hires me and brings me in, I don't care what they're doing, whether if they want to do a leasing program, fine, like we'll train the sales team and the selling techs how to do that. If they're like, hey, we're going to take this JB Warranties Wells Fargo bundle and sell that, so we could go either way. I think but the other piece is, if you're going to finance the warranty with the equipment for say 10 years, you have to include the maintenance agreement in there. And that's a little bit of a unbacked risk too, right? Because let's say I say, all right, my maintenance agreement's $300 a year for the next 10 years. There's $3,000 now that I'm tacking on to this Wells Fargo plan that I have to finance. And I might not be in business for 10 years. So who's taking that risk, Tommy?
So in these bundles that we created, Wells Fargo approved bundles, it's sold to the consumer and paid. Wells Fargo's financed it. So the maintenance fee, if the contractor goes out of business, the plan still has the maintenance fee built in it. And it's my responsibility to get that product serviced if that dealer chooses to no longer service that product or if he goes out of business. And the good thing about that is I probably got 15 to 18,000 vetted contractors across the country. And I have another 8 or 10,000 that are on our platform that don't normally regularly engage with me. So I've got a very strong service network. And gosh forbid, Stephen, you're right. If a company goes out of business, I'll step up and fulfill the obligation. I have to by law.
The other group, Mary, that's highly interested in making sure these things are backed properly are the big box stores, right? Because if you're selling heating and air through a big box store and you're self-funding either this 10-year maintenance agreement or a 10-year labor warranty and you go out of business, the person on the hook is the big box store. So
Right.
there've been some dealers who didn't realize the mess they were making, that when the cease and desist letters started coming out and attorneys started sending requests for information and stuff, they were like, oh, we screwed up. and so that's the other piece is, you got to make sure you got your I's dotted and T's crossed. It can be a mess for sure.
I want to
100%.
maybe transition to the homeowner part of selling extended warranties because I am married to someone who is a skeptic of these kinds of plans. Um, Full disclosure, they're mechanically inclined, so there's nothing that we can't fix, which is fun and great sometimes. But how do we work on selling these to homeowners who might be like, oh yeah, don't need that. I've never bought one before in my life. That don't even buy one for the cell phone. How do we overcome objections on selling extended home warranties to homeowners?
I think Trane Technologies got some relationships with a guy named Stephen Ross who does some sales training. I think he's really good at what he does. And I think if you create the presentation to the consumer, and it's a broken record, but good, better, best, 4 or 5 scenarios, it becomes a sales process. And it's as good and as bad as PE's in our space. These guys are putting together a pretty good sales process.
Mm,
And so they've got the Service Titan catalog, if you will, and they've got their price book, and it's just baked in, and it's just a process. And when I saw Stephen's presentation in Chicago, and that crammed back full room of contractors, because it was packed, Stephen, it's just repetition, isn't it, Stephen? It's just doing the same thing over and over and over. Because people, when they call you, they have a need. You're there to sell and satisfy that need. Stephen, your process is pretty smooth, isn't it?
Well, it is a challenge. I mean, you got to have a good process, absolutely. And you got to be able to overcome an objection in any sales process, right? And so Mary's question is, hey, how about this objection? I mean, I was on the flip side of this. So last year, I bought my daughter a car and I bought my dad a car. Now the car that I bought my dad was way nicer. Like, I mean, it's same manufacturer, but he got the luxury brand, and then my college age daughter did not get the luxury brand, right? But I'm buying them from the same dealer.
That makes sense. Initially, I thought kiddo was going to make out there, but that makes sense. Okay.
No, you got to earn it. I mean, I'll get you 4 wheels, but you want something nicer. You got to, dad's a different category, right? So, all right, but here's the argument. So I'm sitting down with a guy, and to your point, Mary, I don't normally buy extended labor warranties, right? I'm like, come on. But I'm also buying this for my dad. I'm buying it for my daughters. So I'm like, all right, let's do it, because, who knows what's going to happen 4 or 5 years from now, and maybe whatever. Let's do it. Here's the thing, like the warranty on the luxury brand was twice as expensive as the warranty on the cheaper brand. Again, same manufacturer, right? Yeah. And I'm like, hey man, like your whole sales pitch is the brand is better. It's higher quality. Then why would the warranty be twice as expensive? Like what? And so we had a decent little debate. I lost the debate in the sense that I bought both extended warranties, but I was mad about it for a little bit. Yeah. So Tommy, I mean, can we flip this around? I mean, you've got multiple brands in this industry. The sales pitch sometimes is, hey, our brand is better. The quality is better. The workmanship's better. The components are better. Therefore, it's more expensive. And then by the same token, we say to the homeowner, yeah, you're going to need an extended warranty. Like sometimes the homeowner's like, wait, what just happened to the quality sales pitch, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a hard message to articulate, because you're right. You see the Consumer Reports magazine come out every 3 years, and it rates the brands of air conditioning. And if I'm going to buy the top brand, I'm buying the Cadillac, then I don't need to worry about the little old Chevrolet. But again, they're mechanical products. Yeah. They're put in by human beings, and they go down a manufacturing line. There's always going to be a risk. You're buying a brand new, a 6-figure truck now. If you looked at replacing the dashboard in my standard Dodge pickup, that little screen that's about 10 inches square, that's out of warranty, that's $7,000. Yeah. It's kind of mind-boggling. So I think most consumers are being groomed to see the value of extended warranties. And I think the best example in the country is go to Best Buy. Go buy you a TV. Go buy you a new cell phone. Go buy you a new computer. They're going to ask you at point of sale, do you want a protection plan? Click right here. They even do it at Lowe's now and Home Depot on tools. So I think there's a value there. I think consumers are going to start expecting it to increase, because everything's increasing, right, wrong, or indifferent, again. But it's just protecting your asset, right? If you look at a house, you look at a single-story, 2,300 square foot house, if they put a 5-ton 20-SEER air conditioner in it, ladies and gentlemen, that's north of $20,000. Mm. When that fails, and that inverter board fails in year 9, that is going to be a doozy of a labor bill. So I think it's just the education is becoming much more better. There's a lot of coaching groups out there that are teaching. I think there's a lot of groups like Nexstar, like Praxis, some of these coaching success groups that really have toned the message that you need to sell the consumer and be confident in what you're selling and offer these scenarios. Because consumers, I think somebody said it best, if you offer 3 scenarios, the middle one's going to sell the most. Mm-hmm. If you offer 5, they're not going to sell 1, they're not going to sell 5, but you're going to sell between 2 and 4. So that price point in air conditioning becomes a 16 or a 17 SEER system. So you eliminate the low end, you eliminate the high end, you're actually creating more revenue selling in the mid-tier. And I think we'll all expect it to increase.
I think those are really valid examples, because even though I just said that we don't usually buy those warranties, we actually did on our last TV. And wouldn't you know, a pixel went out, and it was a non-event for us. It was literally a phone call, a claim, and new TV showing up. And it did make it a lot easier. The process was a lot smoother. And we also have dabbled in the new truck industry, and I'm convinced that that screen in the truck can take us to outer space. It's insane how big they are now. But to your point, we got the extended warranty info, and they kind of broke down some of the costs of like the screen or some of the sensors. And we both looked at each other and said, well, the cost of the warranty makes it a no-brainer, because not only is the warranty not as expensive as some of these parts, but if you don't use, they had a policy, if you don't use the warranty, I think they'll give it back to you or something like that. But it was it's interesting how on electronics our perception is changing around that a little bit. And then you think about how an HVAC system has changed, and especially some of those inverter-driven projects, and certainly our more sophisticated communicating systems. Same concept, right? Like more sensors, more screens, and more ways for things to find a failure.
More things for me to pay for that fail. That's exactly right. The more
Yeah.
complicated they get, the more it costs me to continue to do business. That's exactly right.
All right, I got one more question, Tommy. Let's say again, I've kind of put my dealer hat on, and I've argued before because I had a business partner, we had a service manager, like different people had different opinions on these things. So let's take an example. We got an 8-year-old unit, and maybe the control board's out, right? So what are we charging? Well, we've got our flat rate labor pricing built in. We've got the cost of the part built in, and then we've got the markup on the part built in. So the argument sometimes is, oh, that labor warranty's bad because it costs me money. Now I might have made $800, but I'm going to go handle this under warranty, and the warranty company's going to pay me $300 or whatever it ends up being. And so therefore, I, as the company, by selling more extended warranties, I'm actually hamstringing my service department in the future. That's one argument that I've heard as well. How do you mitigate that, or what's the? I like what you said earlier, which is one bad review hurts. So you want to make sure you're taking care of the customer, but what about just profitability of your service department?
So, a couple of things. The contractor pick and chooses the labor rate, right? So he's determining what he wants to be paid. I hate to say it, but most contractors don't expect to be paid as much for in-warranty service as out-of-warranty service. We have to have that conversation with dealers. I've got dealers that are multi-million-dollar dealers that tell me it cost them $75 to roll a truck. And I just kind of think, whoa, hang on.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
However, if you want to buy a $75 an hour warranty, I'll sell it to you. But you're going to guarantee to service it for a length of time. And so I think what we've done is we built up higher labor rates. Believe it or not, I can go up to $500 per hour starting in 2026 to reimburse a contractor for his labor. So I can build out what he wants. But the other thing that extended warranty does is, again, it makes you own that house for 7 years, okay? If you didn't sell the extended warranty and Stephen Ross Air Conditioning put that system in, and you come out in year 8 and you tell me it's $1,200 to replace that blower, what might I do? I might call somebody else.
Yeah.
Because you're not tied to that homeowner, whereas a warranty shows the value that it has to go through you. We do ask dealers to make a margin on the front. You're not going to get rich off the labor rate you're buying me, trust me. But you're going to own the home, and you're going to sell the second system because you're going to be in that house every year for 10 years. Why would they ever buy from somebody else? You've got the relationship, you own the house. So I teach dealers, and we tell dealers, all of our sales team does it very good. Figure out what your true labor cost is and buy the next labor rate up and mark it up. And as long as they do that, they should be not getting retail price, but satisfying a consumer at a profitable price for a length of time.
All right, I got 2 more quick questions. We're almost out of time. I got 2 more quick questions. Is it all right, Mary? I'm just like dying to ask Tommy all these questions. All right.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So all right, so here's a couple scenarios. What if you put in an 80% furnace, local code changes no longer allow 80% furnaces. And now you've got some sort of regulation that the unit's under warranty, but we can't go back with what we had before. Or the similar example was you had some people, some manufacturers were offering system warranties. And let's say, the system's 410A, so the heat pump's covered. They'll get a new heat pump. It's covered under warranty, but now the air handler doesn't match the heat pump anymore because the new one's going to use a new refrigerant type. How do you guys handle that?
Those are handled individually. It doesn't happen that often, but like what I see more times than not, I don't necessarily see furnaces not being backwards compatible. That's normally pretty simple, and air handlers too. Where it gets me in a little bit of a pickle is I do a lot of mini split warranties, and there is a ton of manufacturers on the mini split side. And in the mini split side, I don't know why it happens, but it's never backwards compatible, probably because of technology changing. In those rare cases, when that air handler fails, a high wall air handler, I would actually have to pay for an air handler plus the repair. So there's situations where I would have to pay for the product. There's also situations like backwards compatible. If you just sold a 410A condensing unit warranty today, and for some reason your manufacturer couldn't get you the compressor, which is, believe it or not, happening.
Yeah.
The manufacturer would give you a new unit. I would pay the labor to change out the unit.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, because if it's got a warranty and it's got to be changed out, I'm paying the labor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With my sales team last year, we were role playing. And so we in our Price Book Plus lineup, we had some systems that were 410A, we had some systems that were 454B. And we're selling against companies that are offering 410A, 454B, or maybe R32. And so from a role play standpoint, I wanted my sales team to be pretty proficient in discussing the pros and cons, but the answer in almost any of those scenarios is get yourself an extended warranty, because the guy, if I'm selling a 410A product, what's my competitor going to say? Oh, that's obsolete. That's not going to be around, and blah, 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 right? If I'm selling the 454B product and my competitor's selling the 410A product, what's he going to say? He's going to say, oh, that's new stuff. That new technology hadn't been tested yet. We don't know how well it's going to work. This is how he's going to sell his stuff. So it was really interesting. I mean, as we role played this, the answer really was you got to be able to talk fluently about the extended warranty and what it covers and what's going to happen in those scenarios, because we do want if we say to the homeowner, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Well, what you're ultimately selling is peace of mind. And when you're like, I don't know, well, there goes the peace of mind. So, those kinds of conversations, that was pretty important. And it's hard. If you're a selling technician and you got to fix stuff and it's a lot to remember in your head. And then you go out and you get a customer beating you up over, I don't want to pay for this extended warranty. It's expensive, but getting good at that conversation. And then to your point, offering it bundled in with financing. There's some dealers just absolutely killing it out there. And this is in an environment where you have a lot of dealers struggling. We've kind of had a down years in industry, but when you look around, there's dealers that they're taking a JB Warranties and a Wells Fargo and putting it together and killing it. Like they're growing this year. And how are they growing? Well, they're just taking customers from their competitors. So that always gets me excited.
Yes, that's how it happens, doesn't it? It's I love to see dealers thriving in a tough economy because I can learn something from them. And what's cool is when I can have a very successful dealer in Tennessee, and I've done this many a times, call a guy in Dallas and say, give him some guidance, give him some help. Because we're fortunate enough to have thousands of customers, and we continue to add thousands every year, and they become true partners. In fact, I'm bringing some out to our annual meeting, some of my larger dealers. We're going to have a couple of them come out here and just kind of share the success that they've had over the last 10 years selling JBW. So I got a lot of true believers in there that understand the space and do it really well.
And I got one more question. I know I'm supposed to be done. I got all these questions. All right. So because again, I like selling. I got some competitors that I just loved going up against, right? And the leasing program that one of my competitors offered had this pretty large balloon payment at the end. And so most of the time they didn't really talk about it much with the homeowner. When I pointed it out, the homeowner was shocked. So your product that you're saying, hey, we can take a maintenance agreement. We can bundle it with a 10-year labor warranty. We can use Wells Fargo to finance it. At the end of 10 years, that thing is paid for. There is no balloon payment at the end. Is that right, Tommy?
That is correct on just the standard Wells Fargo platform.
Yep.
If you went down the leasing platform, there's a bundle at the end. That is correct.
Yeah. And I've sold the leasing program. And so I believe that that's the new generation. To Mary's point, I mean, the upcoming generation of homeowners, they're used to monthly payments. They're used to extended warranties. This is just kind of what they're used to. So for that type of consumer, I might be this old guy going, well, I wouldn't lease an air conditioner. But if you're 30 years old and you own a house now and you need to buy a heating and air system, a lease might absolutely make sense to you. So I have to adjust to that. But I also, I'm trying to beat my competitors. So it's, how do I sell against them and what can I offer to go head to head? Anyway, well, I appreciate you being on here. Mary, I had a whole bunch of questions at the end. Do you have any other questions for Tommy?
Well, I do have one because guess how many times I've bought something from a salesperson that said, yeah, I don't really know how that works. So no times have I ever said, yeah, that's my guy. So where can people go learn more about JB Warranties and your programs and maybe even work with you in the future?
So thank you. If you're interested in extended warranties, whether it's my brand or another brand, for JBW, go to jbwarranties.com to register. Basically need company name, address, phone number, state license number. And then our team, we have a very large sales team, and we have an outreach onboarding process to where we touch everybody physically in person for about 95% of the country. So we've also got a YouTube channel. We've got a little 12 or 13-minute video on the history of JB Warranties. That we did for a very large event a few years ago. So Google us. We're pretty popular on Google. We're really big in our space. Again, we've got about 43, 44 sales guys out in strategic markets. And then I've got an inside sales team that handles the more sparsely populated parts of the country.
I love that Tommy ends the interview because this is a football thing, right? There was a reporter that asked a football coach, like, hey, you took over this team and you're winning. Like, how did you do it? And he just responds with, Google me. And that's Tommy at the end. That's how he wraps it up. He's like, hey, man, you want to know more? Just Google Tommy Q, baby. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. And truly, Tommy Q is a fantastic LinkedIn follow. I got to plug you there.
Nice.
Thank you. We'll have some cool stuff next week. With our sales team coming in, I've hired some folks to do all the videotaping and some drones and stuff. So we'll have some good posts out next week.
Awesome. Well, this was incredibly insightful. I know I learned a lot just on extended home warranties and what labor warranties and what that really means. And then just a little bit more behind the curtain on what JB Warranties does. So Tommy, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary and Stephen, for having me. I appreciate it. Hope I wasn't too rough for you.
No, this is great.
I appreciate the opportunity.
You bet. And if you have any questions for Tommy or JB Warranties, we would love to pass them on. Our email address is, ready for it, HVAC_full_blast@tranetechnologies.com. And if you need to hear that again, hit rewind. Okay, we're done. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks y'all very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.